That's right, boys. We're back in the basement for the Basement Boys. Recently, the main story DLC for Fire Emblem Three Houses just released, and I finished it a few days ago. Maybe a couple days ago. The day after it came out, I finished it. So, I guess we talk about what I think of it in tradition, so we can complete the cycle. We did all 4 routes previously. Let's do the DLC. So this is actually the first DLC campaign I've played for Fire Emblem, believe it or not. There was Heirs of Fate before for Fates, and then Before Deliverance for Shadows of Valentia, neither of which I played. So I don't know how Cindered Shadows compares to either of them, but regardless, what did I think of Cindered Shadows by itself? I think this is clearly the reason you're getting the DLC for Three Houses, if anything, is that you want to know what the story, extra story is about. And I will say this. The Three Houses story for Cindered Shadows is what I would like to call canon fanfiction. And I'll explain more about that, what I mean when we get to the actual story stuff. But I don't feel like it adds enough substantial to the lore and story of Three Houses that either can't be learned by playing the other house routes, or B, is just... what's the word for it? Insubstantial additions to the lore and setting that really don't add up to much. But we learn about... I know what we learn about. We'll get there, okay? We'll get there. So what did I think about the overall product of Cindered Shadows? Well, we'll start with the gameplay. And first thing I notice is that we get 7 characters from the base game. So we get Byleth, of course, Edelgard, Dimitri, Claude, which is the only time all 3 of them are playable together outside of the prologue chapter. Then we get Ash, Linhardt, and Hilda, just as backups. And all 7 of them come with their own predetermined base stats, character classes, and weapon level ranks. And it's like, okay, I mean, sure, you gotta start the characters out somewhere. These characters have been fighting for a while. But then I noticed after getting them into fights, they are getting experience, they are leveling up, but they're not getting weapon ranks. They're not getting battalion level ups. None of that. And when I really figured out what was going on here, it clicked right away. I was like, I see what's going on. They're making this DLC more about strategy than strict RPG. Now, a lot of people's criticism with the base game of Three Houses is that it's too easy. And I agree. Three Houses main game is too easy. But it was also trying to be more of an RPG. I've said this in the past. There's a strategy RPG, which is most Fire Emblem games, and then there's the management RPGs, which is games like Gaiden and Genealogy of the Holy War. And it's fine that Three Houses falls into that category. I don't mind that at all. But Cindered Shadows falls back into the SRPG side of things, and it shows us what could have been if they took that route with this game. So, while I'm happy that Three Houses ended up the way that it did, the fact that we get to see what it could be as well through a DLC, that's amazing to me. And let me tell you, this is probably the most difficult Fire Emblem game I've ever played. I mean, not strictly in the sense, but it was the game that challenged me the most consistently and challenged me in ways I didn't expect the series to ever really do. And for that reason, I think the game expects you to play one route at least multiple routes before going into the DLC. Again, I played on Hard Classic, so that's affecting my own personal view of the DLC difficulty. But that said, Hard Classic wasn't all that hard in Three Houses' main game. Hard Classic in Cindered Shadows, oh boy. In Chapter 2, or is it Chapter 1? I forget how they titled the chapters. The second map of the game, the arena map. I made some critical errors, I made some dummy decisions, and I ran out of divine pulses, and found myself at the game over screen. The first legitimate time I saw the game over screen for Fire Emblem Three Houses was in the DLC, and I applauded it in that moment. I was like, dude, Three Houses, Cindered Shadows, you aren't holding back at all. I love this. And I was like, this is amazing. The map went on maybe a little too long for my liking, but the fact that I wasn't using my tools and my characters properly, and the game punished me for that, I was elated. I was like, whoa! In fact, every single map in the DLC I think was awesome. I'm not gonna say that there weren't times I wasn't peeved off. Like Chapter 3, I was playing it till 3 in the morning, and I made a mistake. Happy got killed by an archer, and I had to restart the whole dang level again because I also ran out of Divine Pulse charges, and I was really mad and upset, and I ranted on Twitter. But it was also 3 in the morning, so I apologize. I did not mean those words I said, except yes, I did, because Chapter 3 is annoying. But at the same time, the reason I really can't be mad at the chapters is because every mistake I made that got me into trouble in the place I was at, it was my own fault. I made critical errors or jumped too quickly to like trying to fix mistakes that I ended up creating more mistakes in the end, and I was able to recognize each failure I made when I made them. So for that reason, I can't really be mad at the difficulty of the maps. I'm more mad at myself, which I take out in the maps, because it's 3 in the morning and I have to restart that chapter, which took me 2 hours. Are you serious, game? Come on. One more speed on Happy. That's all I needed, is just one more speed on Happy, and we could have had the whole issue solved. But I have to say, while I liked the maps in this game, my one big criticism of them is they take way too dang long. So, for the arena map I was mentioning, your Ashen Wolves start out in the center of the map, you start out in the bottom corner, and then enemies are like up here, and you have to work together to join them or take out the enemies, whatever you want to do. Have them join together, and once you defeat that group of enemies, more enemies from this corner start showing up, and then start decking you with their own attacks as well. And when you take care of all of them, then another group of enemies come down, and then they also try to attack you. And then also, for whatever reason, the Black Knight shows up back in the corner you started at. The Death Knight has nothing to do with the DLC at all, so I really don't know why he's here. I guess just as a timer to like get you to hurry the frick up. But even still, that whole process takes about an hour and a half, I believe, maybe 2 hours if you're slow. But either way, most maps on average in the DLC took me about 2 hours. And let me tell you, I really don't miss really large and long maps from the old Fire Emblem games. What I like about Three Houses is that, the main game at least, is, well, yeah, it was easy, but every map took about an hour. So, an hour, maybe even less, depending on how strategic you were. So, for that reason, I was never, like, frustrated with maps in Three Houses, or Fates, or Awakening, because they were all just relatively short, condensed map sizes. In Cindered Shadows, at least, I wouldn't say the maps are really any larger, but they just take so much longer to complete because you don't have as many options to really cheese maps. You don't have a warp spell, you don't have the stride gambit, you don't have any of that stuff. So for that reason, I feel like if you found yourself extremely frustrated with one map in particular, it was just because it went on too long, and maybe you did end up dying and kicking the bucket somewhere close to the end and just got really mad. Like, for example, Chapter 4, which a lot of people struggled with. If you don't remember, it's the map where you are being chased by a giant golem, and you have to escape through different chambers of the dungeon to eventually escape the map. So we actually have a proper escape map in Three Houses for once, which is awesome. It was actually probably my favorite chapter in the DLC. Regardless, you have to make all your party members to this one part of the chamber. Then the previous part closes up, but then more enemies show up in the chamber you're at, and then you have to escape that chamber, and then more enemies show up in the next chamber you're at. And it's just really annoying, but it also is like, it instilled a lot of panic in me. Like, how the hell am I going to get out of this alive? Just trying to be extremely conservative and extremely safe with my moves, but knowing that the game was trying to push me to make those risky maneuvers. Oh boy, these maps were a lot of fun. maybe too long, and when they get too long, they just get annoying. But still, I enjoy playing on almost every map in this game to some extent. And what I loved about them so much is that they really do force you to use every tool at your disposal. For example, spoilers for Chapter 6, if you haven't gotten there yet. Gameplay spoilers, at least, not story. At the start of the map, there are 4 long-range bolting mages that will just shoot you with magic, and that will probably kill you if they just hone in on one person. And I was just trying to beat my head against the wall for this map for like an hour, and I was getting so mad and frustrated with it. Like, what am I supposed to do? I can't approach these bolting mages that just kill anyone that comes near them. I can't send them as a group. They'll just target one person. I can't send just one person because they target that person. They kill them too, along with all the other enemies surrounding them. I need to find a way to clear those mages, but there's no way because I have to make my way all the way up there, and not even my mounted units can make it, so what am I supposed to... And then I was looking through my gambits, and I noticed Ash had Retribution, which allows the user to counter enemies at any range they're attacked at. And I'm like, oh, that's how I take care of the bolting mages. So it even gives you gambits that you think, Retribution, why would I ever use that? For purposes like that. So Chapter 6 kind of feels more like a puzzle-solving tool. It's like, do you know you have Retribution? And if so, then the map's pretty easy after that. Like, seriously, I was beating my head against the wall at this chapter for an hour and a half, trying to figure out, like, how to get past these dudes. And then when I figured out Retribution, I just breezed through the rest of the chapter, because it's like, I got you now, Three Houses. In fact, the only chapter in the game I think I actually despised was the final chapter. No spoilers, but I just hated the final boss. I just hated it. It's polarizing. Some people say it's one of the hardest final bosses in any Fire Emblem game. Other people say it's one of the easiest final bosses in any video game. So yeah, I didn't like the final boss. It wasn't obvious what I needed to do, which is fine. But when I figured out the best strat, it still didn't feel like it didn't feel like I was an idiot when I overcame it. Like the Retribution Gambit trick, I felt like an idiot when I discovered that. When I made critical mistakes that got my units killed at the end of the chapter for previous maps, I felt like an idiot because I made those mistakes. For the final boss, I didn't feel like an idiot when I overcame it. I just felt annoyed. Like, is that really what you wanted me to do? But overall, my experience with the gameplay side, I think it was a net positive. I don't think I'll ever play it on Hard Classic again. If I ever revisit it, I'm probably going to be doing so on Normal Casual, because, oh boy, was hard rough. It was rough. I loved how rough it was, but it was still rough. I suppose I should talk a little bit about Abyss, the town below Garrick Mach, and it's fine. It's just a small little hub that you can do a few things in. It doesn't serve a lot of purpose behind just like buying weapons and items in the main game or in the DLC, but in the main game, you can also go back and explore this person during your free day, or this place during your free days. And there's a few things you can do here. You can find lost items, or like recycled items that have like a few uses left, and you can like repair them at the blacksmith or whatever. You can recruit the students down here, obviously. There's a statue where you can offer renown to, and then get pretty high quality items like master seals and also Abyss exam tests, which allows you access to the 4 unique classes of the DLC, which are like Dark Flyer, Valkyrie, Trickster, and War Monk. And they're all pretty fun class options too, and I'm looking forward to using them in the main game because I'm sure they're broken there. I'm sure you can make busted builds with those, and I'm excited to see what people do with that. But regardless, I think it was fine. I think you're getting your money's worth out of the DLC. I just wouldn't fully recommend it. But anyway, that's all I really have to say about Abyss. It's an interesting setting, kind of beautiful and creepy at the same time. Nice that a place where someone that has nowhere else to belong can go here, but at the same time, the fact that a lot of people who are down here are just shunned upon in the real world is just, or in Fodlan at least, just kind of makes Fodlan a more despicable place. But either way, that's all there is to that. Anyway, I think it's time we start talking about the story for Cindered Shadows. And I'm going to say this right here. Spoilers for both Cindered Shadows, the whole thing, and minor spoilers for some of the rest of the 4 routes of the main game. I'm not going to actually be spoiling the endings for those routes or anything like that, but any information that's revealed there that does feel relevant to Cindered Shadows, I'm going to be talking about. So that's why I'm saying minor spoilers for the main game. If you finish at least one house route, you're going to be fine completely. But Cindered Shadows, everything's on the table. So if you want to play this game at all and you want to know the story fresh, you can stop watching here. That's fine. So 3, 2, 1, let's jam. So, I said at the top of the video that the story of Cindered Shadows feels like canon fanfiction. And what I mean by that is, let's just explain the overall premise of the story, and I think it'll kind of make more sense what I mean by that. You start out learning about this event that happened long ago, the Rite of Rising, where a chalice was used and the 4 saints, and the ritual failed and the 4 saints went off in different directions and stayed hidden from the world so that their blood could never be used for this ritual again. So that's fine. I mean, there's a lot of Fodlan's history we don't know about, so the fact we're getting just a new event, it's not a big deal at all. And then we come to present day, and we discover a hole that leads underground. And we go into this hole, and what do we find? Large winding corridors and dimensions of a place called Abyss. And then we discover enemies, we fight them off, and we figure out, oh wait, you're of the Officers Academy. And we learn that here in Abyss, in the secret society below Garrick Mach, there exists a secret 4th house of the Officers Academy. Mostly in just name alone, but still, a secret 4th house by their own words. We fight with them, we meet their mentor dude, a guy named Alfric, and Alfric's like, Professor, would you be the professor to the students of this house? They don't have their own professor of their own. And then you fight together, you go treasure hunting, you come back. Oh no, mentor dude Alfric's been kidnapped. We gotta go find him. So you find him, and Alfric's evil. But Yuri is also evil. They both betray us. Oh boy. But Yuri left us a clue to go and track them down, so we track them down. And Yuri's a double agent. He betrayed Alfric in this moment because he betrayed the Cinder Wolves so he could get Alfric's trust. Because Rhea was onto Alfric the whole time. And then ritual happens though, and you gotta fight Alfric, but then he's like, no, I must do this. I need to revive your mother. Gerald didn't deserve her. I deserved her. And then he turns into a final boss. You kill him, and then the Ashen Wolves are forgiven for their crimes. You find out that Yuri was never in the wrong the whole time, and he's not shifty, and you can recruit those students now in the main game. I'm being super reductive of the story when describing it that way, but even if I told you nothing about the story and you started playing it blind, I'd be surprised if you weren't predicting what was going on. Like, many people, when they saw Alfric for the first time, they said, bad guy. He's bad guy. And I'll be honest, I didn't really say that. I said, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy turned out to be evil, but I didn't specifically call out bad guy, because he didn't seem like anything was off to me. But I also went into this story blind. Some people did know about Alfric beforehand. Maybe not his intentions, but they knew of the character, and people just called out bad guy when they saw him. And because of that, we don't really learn anything substantial about the Ashen Wolves, or the Cardinal, Alfric, whatever his name is. We don't really learn too much about either in this story. And that's kind of the problem with trying to make a side story that happens in between the main game somewhere, is that you have to accept that it happened during that point, while also accepting that what happened there has no bearing on the rest of the story, because that was my concern going into the story. It's just, how come we just forget the Ashen Wolves are there when we go on to play the rest of the game? And the game does kind of explain that, and you can recruit them eventually, but even still, it adds nothing to the overall story of Three Houses. Except for the one thing where I did say we'll get there eventually. In this DLC, we learn much more about Byleth's mother. For example, when we talked to Alfric, he's like, oh, let me know, I'll tell you about your parents anytime. And when I heard that, I said, parents? As in, both of them? So we ask about Geralt, and he's like, oh, Geralt was a knight, he was pretty cool. And then we ask about our mother, and he's like, she was so beautiful. Her name was Citri. And we grew up in the monastery together. We were great friends. And he has a whole lot more to say about her. So first of all, yeah, we got a name for Byleth's mother. Her name is Citri. You may be asking, what does this mean for Three Houses? Absolutely nothing. Her name could have been Mary Jane, and it would have made absolutely no difference. Honestly, people were disappointed we never found out her name in the main game. I honestly didn't mind because it doesn't matter. But still, we get to learn the name for the people who care. Again, another reason why I say this story is fanfiction. Because we just find out things that don't matter. But still, whatever. I'm glad for the people who wanted to know, now know. And also that scene where we're talking to Alfric about her mom is the, one show of subtlety that Cindered Shadows actually has. It's letting us know what the story's about without directly stating it in our face. Because obviously it's a love story between, or I guess a love triangle story in this case, between Alfric, Citri, and Geralt. But obviously, Citri loved Geralt. Maybe she liked Alfric, but she didn't love him. And Alfric grew jealous and distraught when she died. He found her body deep in abyss and was like, I gotta do something about this. I gotta bring her back to life because I love her. She deserves me. And the story's just stupid. I'll say it right now. The story of Cindered Shadows is just stupid. I enjoyed the stupidity, but it just really doesn't add anything. Everything we learn about Byleth's mother in the story, we learn about through Silver Snow, that pathway of the game. So, I guess if you haven't played that story, and you don't want to because you already played Golden Deer, I understand. I guess this is a pretty good alternative to that. You won't learn everything, but you at least know in clear detail what the circumstances behind Byleth's birth were and the death behind Citri. So if you want to know that, you can. And as it turns out, Citri was a frail woman, and during childbirth, she and the child were both going to die, and she made the conscious choice to have Rhea take her heart and then put it inside Byleth. Rhea is leaving out some of the truth when she does tell us the story behind our birth, but regardless, it's at least enough of an explanation that's truthful enough to where it's like, okay, that makes sense to me. I don't like the explanation that Citri was frail and therefore she died giving birth to Byleth. I like my own headcanon, my own explanation more of, because Citri was... I think that's all I really need to say on the story of Cindered Shadows. My one big disappointment with it is that there was just a lack of characters that felt really important to the story. For example, Geralt. His portrait appears in the DLC, at least. You see a picture of him giving flowers to Citri, and she's smiling and cute. But we never see him at all during the story. He's not even the narrator for the chapter titles anymore. And that was a little disappointing, because I feel like because the story was about Byleth's mother, the fact he wasn't present for anything regarding Byleth's mother was strange to me. We know this does take place during part 1 before Byleth merges with Sothis. So It's possible that this does take place in January, where Geralt has already been dead for the month, but at the same time, I think it still takes place before that, when the knights are investigating the Western Church after the Rite of Rebirth. So, I mean, they could have just explained Geralt's away, we won't see him at all, and I would have been fine with that. It's like, okay, whatever, that's fine, at least we know he's not here for a reason. Sothis, though, was never involved in the DLC in any capacity, and I felt that was a really missed opportunity. Because I would have loved to see what her comment was about Citri. Did she know her at all? And we know the answer is that in some way, shape, or form, she should have, but who knows? If she said, no, I don't know this person at all, that would have made sense too. The fact we don't see her, though, and the fact she's still with Byleth at this point and can speak, weird. I don't get it quite at all. So overall, thoughts on Cindered Shadows. It was pretty good. Mixed feelings overall, but at the end of the day, I did enjoy playing what I did. If you're getting this DLC for any reason, I think, you're getting it for the challenging maps of the side story. And the maps are really challenging. If you really feel up to it, I absolutely recommend playing on Hard Classic. That said, it wasn't worth it enough to give a full recommendation for it. Obviously, I'm looking forward to abusing the heck out of those classes that I get now in the main game, but I'm not far enough in there, so I can't say. I do like how they actually added more NPC conversations for all the people in Abyss for every chapter so far. So I'm actually really looking forward to going back to explore Abyss to see what people have to say. So for those reasons, I think if you buy the DLC, you've gotten your money's worth out of it, along with all the additional goodies you get, like I forget what you get in the DLC now. But like costumes and stuff. But those were fun additions too, and I've seen a lot of people just love them. You get a dancer outfit for Byleth now, so you don't get the dancer class for Byleth, sadly. But hey, at least you get the costume, so that's nice. Although people were hacking it in before the game even allowed you to use it, so oops. But overall, yeah, Cindered Shadows, pretty good game. I don't know if I'll ever replay it, but at the same time, the one playthrough I did was worth it. Just, if you're not super convinced on Three Houses, well, depending on the reason you weren't convinced by it, but like, if you said it was too easy, I'd definitely look into the DLC, but if you think you're still gonna hate it, you might still hate it. It's only like a short 10-hour campaign, so it's nothing too crazy. But at the same time, it did enough twists on the Three Houses formula and reworked that game engine in such a way where you really have to be intimately familiar with it to get through the DLC, which I loved. But also, if you suck at Fire Emblem, maybe this isn't the DLC for you either. Regardless, I think that's it. I think we can actually finally end this now. So thank you so much for watching my addendum episode for the Three Houses video series. So next time we're talking about Three Houses, it's for sure going to be the retrospective, and I anticipate it's going to be in April sometime. So look forward to that. Mark your calendars. I still have a lot of script to write, and I think I could include Cindered Shadows somewhere in there too, which is mostly what I was holding out for, why I said spring 2020 at the earliest in other videos as well. So, but I think I can confidently say it can be done by April. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.